Chapter 7. All Locked Up. Mandy and James stood gazing at the empty table. They could hardly believe Frisky had just vanished into thin air. Then Mandy gave a little laugh of relief. Grandma must have moved him, she said. She knew Mr. Jenkins was coming this morning. Maybe she's put Frisky in the living room. They ran downstairs. Frisky wasn't in the living room. They looked in the study, and then through the rest of the house. Frisky was nowhere to be found. "Let's go and ask your grandpa," James said. They dashed outside. "Grandpa, where's Frisky?" she called anxiously. "Frisky? In your room, isn't he?" Grandpa had finished cleaning the windows and was in his gardening shed. Mandy shook her head. "No, he's gone." Grandpa tipped his cap to the back of his head and frowned. "Come on, let's take a look." Mandy and James followed him inside and back upstairs. "He's not there, honestly," Mandy wailed. "We've looked everywhere," James added. Grandpa stood in the bedroom doorway, his hands on his hips. "Well, I don't know. I'm sure." Mandy was beginning to feel desperate. Where could Frisky have gone? Then James had an idea. "Maybe he went with the things for the sale," he said. Mandy looked at him in horror. "Surely no one would think we were giving Frisky to a rummage sale," she said. James shrugged. If he was asleep in his nest, Mr. Jenkins wouldn't have been able to see him, would he? Grandpa looked thoughtful. "You know, James is right," he said. "John might have thought it was an empty cage." "Oh, Grandpa!" Mandy could hardly hold back the tears. "Come on," Grandpa said. He put his arm around her. "Let's call John." They went back down the stairs. Grandpa dialed Mr. Jenkins' number, but there was no answer. "Can't we go to his house?" Mandy asked anxiously. "He might just be out in the garden and not hearing the phone." Grandpa shook his head. "I'm sorry, Mandy. I don't know where he lives. We'll have to wait until your grandma gets back from the supermarket. She'll know." "Would he have taken the stuff to his house?" James asked. Mandy stared at him. Then her face cleared. "No, of course not," she said. "He would have taken it to the village hall. Let's go and see." She rushed off to get her coat. "But it'll be all locked up," Grandpa called as they ran out. "You should wait till Grandma gets back." "We'll go and see anyway," Mandy shouted, halfway down the path. "It won't hurt to look." She couldn't possibly wait until Grandma got back. She might be away for a long time. Mandy had to do something now. Mandy and James raced down the street across the green to the village hall. Jean Knox was just coming out of the general store. "What's the rush, Mandy?" she called. Mandy skidded to a halt and quickly told Jean what had happened. "Oh dear," Jean said. "I hope you find him all right. Let me know if I can help." "We will," James called as they both ran off. Mr. Hadcroft was putting up an ad on the church bulletin board. Mandy was in such a hurry that she nearly ran into him. "Hey, hey!" He took hold of her arms. "Where's the fire?" "We've lost Frisky," Mandy panted. She told him the story. Mr. Hadcroft patted her shoulder. "Well, try not to worry, Mandy. I'm sure he'll be okay." "I do hope so." Mandy still felt close to tears. "If I see John Jenkins, I'll tell him," Mr. Hadcroft called. "Thanks," Mandy shouted over her shoulder. They reached the village hall and hurried through the gate and up the steps. Mandy grabbed the door handle. She twisted and pushed. Nothing happened. Grandpa had been right. The hall was all locked up. James jumped up and down, trying to see through one of the windows. "I can't reach," he panted. "Here." Mandy tried to lift him up, but he kept slipping out of her grasp. "It's no use," she panted. "You're too heavy. Can't we find something to stand on?" She looked around desperately. There was an orange plastic milk crate by the back door. Mandy went to get it. She turned it upside down and stood on it. "I still can't see," she said. She was standing on tiptoe and the crate was wobbling. "You'll fall off," James warned. Mandy got down. She sat on the crate and put her head in her hands. Oh, James, poor Frisky. What are we going to do? James sat beside her. Maybe we should go back home and wait for your grandma. I'm not leaving until I find out if he's in there, Mandy said stubbornly. James sighed. Okay, but I don't know what good it will do. Luckily, it wasn't long before they saw Grandma's car coming down the road. Mandy jumped to her feet. Grandma! She ran to the curb and waved her arms. Grandma! Grandma, stop! Grandma pulled up beside her. She wound down the window. Mandy, what's wrong? She asked anxiously. Mandy's words all seemed to tumble over one another as she told Grandma what had happened. Oh, dear, Grandma gave a little chuckle. Poor Frisky. Up in you two. I'll take you to John Jenkins' house. He probably has a key. When she saw Mandy's worried face, she stopped smiling. Don't worry, Mandy. I'm sure Frisky will be all right. That's what everyone keeps saying, Mandy said. But it will be cold and damp in the hall, and he'll be terrified if he wakes up in a strange place. Grandma patted her knee. We'll soon sort this out. Don't worry, and he'll be very safe in his cage. When they reached Mr. Jenkins' house, Grandma knocked at the door, but there was still no answer, and the windows were all dark. Mandy wriggled in her seat. Oh, James, she said. What are we going to do now?